Hey guys, alright, so this is just a quick review of my Mayael EDH, just going through the deck list for my friend Sabi. So here you go. I'm trying to foil out this whole entire deck, so we'll see. Some of them are very hard to get, some don't even exist in foil, but those are the breaks. But anyways, Mayael, 3 to cast, 2/3 creature, pay 6, look at the top 5. Look at put a creature power 5 or greater into play and put the rest at the bottom. Self-explanatory. Anyways, for creatures, I'm gonna start off with between each color with red, then green, then white, and then I'll go through either the utilities and then the big creatures. Anyways, for red utility, I got Squee, good for discards and some of my other combo tricks I have. Anger, works out well for discards, better in the graveyard to give my creatures haste. This guy, he doesn't exist in foil, but he's actually really good for my deck. Sky Shard Elf, 2 to cast, 1/1, pay tap, add a green, or pay 1 colorless, add a red or white to my mana pool. It's actually really good when I have X amount of green, which usually happens a lot, so I can always play around with my mana. Eternal Witness, staple for returning anything from your graveyard back to your hand. It's helpful. Spike Weaver, pretty much is a good fog. It helps me out a lot with more of the when I'm having to fight down some of the bigger creatures. It's a good way. Sometimes they attack for everything, and then what I would use is somehow sneak it into play and then fog, and then they're all tapped out and I get no damage. Seedborn Muse, pretty much used in every green deck to untap all your permanents. Pretty much it draws a lot of hate. People try killing it right away, but it's okay. It's fine. If no one can kill it, then it's good for me. And I get to do every turn in multiplayer with my Mayael to untap and keep doing it again. Genesis is, again, it's another card that I use a lot in my graveyard because in my deck I actually have Survival of the Fittest, so it's a good way to pitch and search for everything. And also in graveyard is good so I can return all my creatures back. Well, not all, just one, but it helps out. For white, I only have one utility creature, which is Aven Mind Sensor. Pretty much self-explanatory, stops the opponents from searching their libraries. It's also a good early game because a lot of decks like searching for their either the lands or artifacts and whatnot, but it helps out a lot. And then for the big creatures, pretty much what Mayael runs around. This one I have Hellkite Charger. It works for my infinite combo. That the only infinite combo that I have is with this and my Sword of Feast and Famine. So like to go infinite attacks, it helps out. It works out really well. My other red creature, red Acroma. It's a good. It's really good just against mainly for white and blue, but it's also it flies and I can cast them cheaper and build my way up with the morph ability. Moving on to green, Ant Queen, self-explanatory. Tokens helps out. It's a good answer against Eldrazi's to make me sack. Builds up with Cradle so I can start making more tokens as we go along. Green Warden of Marasa. It's just a bigger version of Eternal Witness, and also it has the ability to do it again when it hits graveyard. So it's good. Regal Force, because my deck is mostly green, so it works out to draw draw X amount of cards. Spirit Breaker Behemoth, he's 7 to cast for a 5/5 indestructible, and again it works around the theme with power 5 or greater to make those creatures indestructible to end a turn. Avenger of Zendikar, self-explanatory. Also, it's good when I do with my Genesis Wave and it comes into play, so you can stack the abilities and triggers how you want it. Craterhoof Behemoth, something that I use with Avenger of Zendikar with the way I can trick things in. And if I especially have haste, so all the tokens get big and Craterhoof will give them +X/+X. Wolfall Primus, it's pretty much to destroy permanents, and the persist helps out too. One other card that draws a lot of hate is Vornaclex. For me, I mean, I have to include it. It doubles up my mana and shuts them down for their mana. More permanent kill, Trastodon. I mean, the elephant, I don't mind. It is what it is, but it actually helps out a lot. Archetype of endurance, pretty much it self-explanatory for hexproof, and opponents that they have hexproof, they lose that. So it's good, especially for those that try to target my general, target everything I have. For white, I have Windbrisk Raptor, so I'm still trying him out. Most of the time when I play in my deck, especially with the whole restrictions with green, I can't with Prime Time and Sylvan Primordial, I can't ramp as much, so I'm losing a lot more life trying to do it in the long run. So I'm trying it out when I attack. So all my creatures gain lifelink, the ones that are attacking. So far it's been good. We'll see what happens. Avacyn, Angel of Hope, make my things indestructible. If they don't have a path or anything to bounce, it's good. But then if I have all the hexproof stuff, it gives a good lock. The white Acroma, flying, first strike, vigilance, trample, pro red, pro black. Gives a lot of people a hard time, especially all the dragons. Another card that I have against aggro decks is Blazing Archon, 5/6 flyer. Creatures can attack me. So usually when I usually try to wait until opponents enter their attack step. So at the beginning of their attack step, I'll play Blazing Archon. Hopefully I draw it in through Mayael, play it, and then their decisions change around for a bit. So deters them from attacking me, attack someone else. Sigarda, Host of Herons, Flying Hexproof. Pretty much it's good against Eldrazi's, sack effects, all that. And all this dust. And I think there's a few other, black has a few sack effects that helps out too. So it's a good answer. Dragonlord Dromoka, can't be countered with flying lifelink, and more of my lifelink stuff. And also, when I try to go for the win or go for the auto swing, it helps out so people can't do anything in response. So if they, for example, I'm attacking or they try to play a spell, okay, in response, I'll try to search out Dragonlord, flash it in somehow. Next card is my artifact, Steel Hellkite. Again, it's more, it helps out to destroy all their permanents. I don't really care much about pumping it up. It's more of the destroy effects, which helps out a lot. Next artifact card is Wormcoil Engine. I think pretty much almost every deck should. I think every deck has one. There's nothing really bad that goes with it. I'm just a little upset that it's not it's the promo one. I'm working my way to get the masterpiece. We'll see what happens if I have enough money for it. Next card, aside from aggro that I have, I also do with Infect, because our playgroup still really does only the 10 Infect counters. So I use that to my playgroup in the local store. So I'm using Blightsteel Colossus, Trample Infect, he's indestructible, and he gets to reshuffle. So, and even sometimes if it's in my hand, if I can't, I know sometimes I can't cast it, at least it's pitchable to survival, or someone's forcing me to discard a card, or even if by chance when I play my card Gamble, I discard this, it's okay. It's not a big two loss. Artifact spells, those are all my creatures. Now moving to non-creature spells. For artifacts, I have Mana Crypt, Masterpiece. I cracked it in my first fat pack for this set. It's pretty good. Soul Ring from the Vault. I think almost every EDH deck has one, excluding, I guess, the French and whatever rules they play and house rules. Scroll Rack helps out with me a lot, mainly because there's times where I would Mayael and then I wouldn't get anything, and then the top card I would draw would be a creature. So at least I can shuffle some of those big creatures back and put it through Scroll Rack, and then I can play it out through Mayael. Sword of Feast and Famine. It's pretty much as good. It works well for me. Get to untap my lands. Also, again, when I play the Hellkite to go infinite attack. So when I tap my mana to pay for the Hellkite to search, where is it here? when I attack to pay for an extra combat step if damage goes through. Since most of my creatures do have trample, I'll usually put the sword on one of the creatures that have trample. So then get to untap, I get an extra phase, and then again I pay the 7. I go infinite loop, wash and repeat. Those are for artifacts. Now moving on to enchantments. One of my more expensive enchantment, but it's kind of like the biggest engine in my deck because my Mayael, aside from big creatures, is more of a big toolbox as well. Most of my creatures all do something else aside from just attacking. So survival of the fittest helps out a lot. Pay green, discard a card. Search a library for a creature card. Reveal, put in your hand. So it helps out when I discard like Squee. So at the beginning, I discard Squee, upkeep, return Squee. So I could always have an infinite loop for searching for the creatures that I need for the answers, or pitching away anger to search for what do you call it, Craterhoof Behemoth, and then next thing you know, if I have all these tokens, then I can play Craterhoof, everything gets bigger, things like that. Next enchantment, Sylvan Library, good way for green, kind of like a brainstorming type of thing. Draw 4, draw 3. If you want to keep the other card after the first, pay 4 life per card. I like it a lot. I mean, sometimes I take too much. I lose a lot of life of it, but it's, card advantage. And we have 40 life, and I have creatures that will gain my life for back, so it's not bad. Aura Shards. There are decks that play mono or majority artifact decks, or Zer the Enchanter type of thing, so it helps out. I did originally have Frozen Grip. The split second helped out a lot, but for those decks that have multiple artifacts or enchantments, this helps out a lot with it too. Privileged Position. Pretty much all my other permanents can be target spells or abilities, opponent's control. So I use this. Hopefully I have Avacyn out too. So everything is pretty much, you can't touch it, you can't, and then everything. So the only way you can really destroy is a sack outlet, unless I have Sigarda out. Then pretty much you can't wrath my stuff, you can't sack my stuff. So it's a good lock. That's hopefully trying to get everything out. But other options help out, mess up with their gameplay. Mari's Wake, pretty much for mana, acceleration, helps out. For Planeswalkers, I only have 2. The first one is Sarkhan Vol. Give my creatures haste, which helps out. The gain control of creature happens sometimes more on if it's a key creature that would help me out, or the general that I might need at that time. I hardly use the final effect. It doesn't really get that far. Usually the first 2 abilities I use. Next Planeswalker is Garruk, mostly for the untapping, especially with the lands I have to get my mana out. For instances, Path Exile, spot removal, Swords to Plowshares, some more spot removal, land searching, crop rotation. Pretty much I do it to search for my Cradle, or one of the other, Nykthos Shrine, to search for the mana so I can get more. Some tricks that I have here. Eerie Interlude helps out when people are trying to wrath my stuff, or even when I'm trying to destroy my stuff, just to get the creatures back. It helps out. Because there's a lot of, like, obviously EDH, there's a lot of mass kill or mass wave removal type of thing. So it's a nice trick, neat trick to get it out. And when they come back, I get the abilities back as well. And the trigger effects. Chaos Warp. Pretty much it's to remove anything out of your way that will give you a problem. Faith Reward, not like Eerie Interlude, but it's a nice way, even for, not aside from creatures, but even my non-creature permanents. So there's been times where I have enough mana and I know to guarantee the win or slow down my opponents to help me win. There's multiple times I would Armageddon, destroy all the lands, and I have enough mana, like, empty my pool out for Face Reward. So they're down all their mana and I get all my lands back. So it's a mean type of trick, but Like, my deck is not as competitive, but there are things to help me out. And also, there's been a time where a guy was playing that he was wrathing my effect. He was able to destroy all my permanents every turn, but I had face reward with a loop with Eternal Witness. So if he destroyed, so I would face reward comes back, Eternal Witness comes into play, then I'll return face reward back to my hand. So I had an infinite loop, so he couldn't kill any of my permanents. Another for a green instance, Court of Calling. Pretty much it's self-explanatory. The search, the convoke helps out a lot with my tokens and the search for many of my answers. So if someone's trying to wrath, I can search for Avacyn, or if they're trying to attack for the game, I'll search for Blazing Archon, or if my mana is lower, I'll search for Spike Weaver, the Fog. There's many creatures I can search for depending on the situation. Kodoma's Reach, it's land search, which all green decks really need to ramp up. Again, like I said, my deck, another alternative way from trying to push damage would be Infect, so Triumph of the Hordes. All my creatures are +1/+1, gain Trample and Infect. There's times that I would give over for 300 Infect, but they don't need that, but it's okay. More the better. Hunting Wilds, again, search for 2 forests. They come into play tapped. Don't really pay the kicker. It's more for the land searching, but it's nice to have, but I never use. Skyshard Claim, more land searching. Tooth and Nail, I think every green deck has one of these, just to get the creatures out and search what you need. Green Sun Zenith, self-explanatory. Also, it's a good way. There's been times that a guy was trying to mill me, and he was able to remove my Blightsteel Colossus, so I would just keep green sunning for 0. At least I would go on top of my deck, so he couldn't deck me. So I would draw it, then green sun for 0 goes back on top of my deck, so he couldn't deck me out like that. Genesis Wave. This card usually wins me the games when I'm playing with my group. 3 and X, reveal the top X cards of your library. Put any number of permanent cards with converted mana cost X or less from the battlefield, and the others go in the graveyard. So most of the time I do Genesis Wave for about, in the beginning I work my way like 10, and then I work my way up if I can get Eternal Witness out, and then we'll work my way for that. For Gamble, it's a red search running card, discard at random. It's a gamble. It's pretty much what it is. It's sometimes it helps, sometimes it ruins me. For red wrath effects, I have Blasphemous Act. I really never pay the 9 mana total. I usually pay it 1 less for every creature on the battlefield. The 13 damage is helpful. I know there's that new card, the one that deals 20 damage to each creature and then destroy target land, but you have to pay the X amount of mana for that. This one's a lot cheaper, and in group play, it's actually quite cheap. Again, Armageddon, destroy all their lands, self-explanatory. Like I said, I use that with my Faith Reward to return all my lands, and their lands are destroyed. Wrath of God, because everyone needs to get remove creatures. I think it's a staple for white decks as well. And for me, I'm not so worried because I do have cards that will make my stuff indestructible. Route, again, destroy all creatures, but it's also helpful that this can be also paid 2 extra to make it an instant. So you can do that surprise type of attack, especially if you don't have any creatures, then you might as well just do it. Martial Coup, usually there's been times where I don't have any creatures, so using this helps out a lot. Especially I get the tokens, or when my stuff is indestructible, I'll just Wrath, and then I'll play this card, and then I'll get my tokens as well. Next card is All Is Dust. Each player sacrifices all colored permanents he or she controls. I use that, obviously there's a good way to clear the board, and if I have my Fate's Reward, I use it. A lot of my Wrath effects, I usually try to use it with Fate's Reward set up. If not, sometimes you just have to take a hit and just do it. For lands, okay, so lands are most important. I'm running I think 33 or 34. I should really up it, but I gotta work through the deck and figure it out. But anyways, the lands are Reflecting Pool. It is mana fixing. Command Tower, mana fixing. Mana Confluence, more mana fixing. For this one, Dringo Shrine, obviously it's mana fixing with my colors from Mayael, so Nykthos, a way to get infinite mana, not infinite mana, but I mean there is ways to get X amount of mana with it. Most of the time my deck is mostly green, so I try to get more than enough with it. Temple of False God, I think most decks have them. Ancient Tomb, mana acceleration is helpful. Yavimaya Hollow, pretty much, yeah, to regenerate creatures. There are times you need to just regenerate things. Strip Mine, I mean, you don't want sometimes to get rid of their lands that are really important for them, or even cut them out of a color. Vesuva, just to copy other land. Maybe they have a cradle and then they destroyed your cradle, so you might need one, or a land, whatever land is situational at the time you might need. Homeward Path, because red and blue likes getting control of all our shit, so it's very helpful. Kessig Wolf Run, this is more of a surprise card. Sometimes like to push the general damage when they least expect it, or push the infect. Sometimes if I have all the mana, I attack. If they take it, then I'll crop rotation, search this out, and then I'll do the ability. Wasteland, just to cut them out on the mana. Reliquary Tower, because there's been times that I would draw X amount of cards through Regal Force. Core Haven, just in case that, people try to attack with their general. It's a good way to stop that. Gavany Township, to put 1/1 counters on each of my creatures, make them bigger. Also, it's very helpful when I have this with my Spike Weaver, so I can keep putting more 1+1/+1 tokens to Fog. Gaze Cradle, search for, not search, but add a green for every creature I control. It's very helpful, obviously. I'm trying to get a foil version of that new enchantment that came out in Ixalan, but haven't seen it locally in my store. I might have to buy it online. We'll see. Savannah, it's staple with the Mayael. Temple Garden. Wooded Bastion for more mana fixing. Sunpetal Grove. And Sanctuary. So this is actually really helpful. All these bounce lands help out well when for example, I'm Genesis Waving. So I'll tap out Cradle for 20. And if I haven't played a land yet, so tap out Cradle, X amount of mana, then Genesis Wave, this comes into play. I search again, return my Cradle, then play my Cradle, then I have more mana again. Taiga, red-green. Stomping Ground, red-green. Firelit Thicket, more red-green filtering. Rootbound Greg, red-green again. And then the red-white stuff, so Plateau. Sacred Foundry. Rugged Prairie. Boros Garrison. Clifftop Retreat. And then the basics, I'm running a 3 Forest. 2 Plains. And 2 Mountains. That's my deck. Pretty satisfied with it. I've been playing with it for almost more than 10 years. It's not as competitive as like some of the other decks I've seen, but mine's more of a casual, but a very consistent and a very big toolbox to get me out of situations. And I played with it long enough, so I've kind of have an idea of what I can do and what I can't do and how to get around things. But again, yeah, this is my deck. It's Mayael. She gets me big things. Anyways, I hope you enjoy and have a good day.